There's a power within you. It lifts your life to its highest level. It brings success, companionship, happiness, and peace of mind. As you tap into this power, it will respond to you because this power is within you. And that's why spirituality rocks. Welcome. I'm your host, Janine Burns, and I've got another fantastic show for you. With this TV show, we teach practical spirituality. And what we do is we bring weekly shows with nationally renowned guests, authors that will inspire you and empower you to awaken your divine nature and expand your consciousness as you learn particular skills for life mastery. And today I have two fantastic guests. I have with us via phone Rocco Errico from Georgia. He is the author of Setting a Trap for God, the Aramaic prayer of Jesus, which Jesus spoke the language Aramaic. And then later on in the show, we have Christopher Ian Chenoweth of Positive Christianity, and he's going to talk to us about his work. And so, before we jump in, I want to tell you a little bit about what's coming up in, March. If you go to www.newthought.org, you will see that there's going to be a spiritual cruise on the Royal Caribbean lines. The theme is Cruising in Consciousness. We have as our keynote speaker Reverend Sheila McKeithen, the incoming president of the Universal Foundation for the Better Living. So that is going to be absolutely fantastic. I'm going to be on that cruise, and I hope you join us. A little bit more housekeeping. If you want to find out more about New Thought, you can go to newthought.org. You can go to newthought.com, where friend to the show, Dr. Harry Morgan Moses, has further information as well. We'd like you to like us on Facebook. We have Spirituality Rocks page, and we also have Spirituality Rocks at Madhouse TV Studios, where we film live in Deer Park, Long Island. And so we thank you for liking us. If you'd like to contact us, if you have any guests you'd like us to be on the show, let us know, and we'd be happy to get in touch with them and book them. All righty then. And what I do is I'd like to welcome to the show Rocco Errico, the author of Setting a Trap for God. Rocco, welcome to Spirituality Rocks.
Thank you. Glad to be on your show.
Yes, I hear the phones beeping. I apologize. We seem to be having a little technical difficulties today, but I'm so happy that we were able to get you on the phone. So, your book is wonderful. It's so heartwarming to read. It's not a difficult read. It's an easy read. And what you talk about is wonderful. You talk about the Aramaic prayer of Jesus, which is commonly known as the Lord's Prayer. What I'd like to ask you is, why did you write the book?
Because most people did not know what some of the words in this prayer mean, and even the meaning of prayer. When you approach it from Aramaic, it has a different meaning entirely. When you use Greek or just even our own English word, we lose the meaning of the word prayer. Prayer, we have misunderstood prayer. That's why I named the book Setting a Trap for God, because prayer means to set a trap in the ancient Aramaic language of Jesus.
And setting a trap, what does that mean?
Means it's not talking. Prayer is not talking. Prayer is preparing your mind, your soul, your heart, your emotions, your entire being to commune with spiritual forces. That is, it awakens the spiritual energies within us that we communicate with what we call God. That's why I called it Setting a Trap for God, because prayer means to trap. You go to trap, and when you're trying to trap something, if you're busy making noises and yakking, then you can't capture anything. So this is the meaning of it in the language itself.
Fantastic. And I know, you even wrote in the book, typically people, when they think of prayer, they're talking like
right.
At God. Or you even said that we treat God as if he's a universal vending machine.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. And so you gave a modern illustration in your book to use when explaining the ancient meaning of prayer. And you said it's like owning a video cassette recorder.
Right. Or today, because when I wrote the book, we were using more of the video cassettes.
Right.
Now we use CDs, you
right.
know.
Right.
And there's two types of CDs you can have. One That's a blank CD, and you'll pick up on what's being sent. And the other CD is when you already have a program, so you're only going to get what you're programming, see?
Right.
So what it does here is when you go in blank, that means you have prepared yourself to receive. Prayer is a state of reception. In fact, even the word, when we think of the Hebrew word in Kabbalistic teachings, the Kabbalah in Aramaic means to receive. It means to be totally open and receptive. And that has to be your prayer is a state of mind, a state of being. Once you get to that state, then when you ask, this is what Jesus says in another place there. He says, when you pray, believing, that is, you're open and you're trusting, then you are ready to receive.
Wonderful. And you talk about the awareness of the presence of God. And so could
Yes.
you please define God? Because there's so many, those people have...
Define God? First of all, God's a mystery.
Yes, you can't really define God, can you?
It has to do with, people refer to God as energy. They refer to God as divine mind. They refer to God in so many different avenues and aspects. And so to define God, you really can't. How can you define love? You cannot define love.
No.
And God is love. God is peace.
Right.
God is joy. God is all of that. In other words, all that you need. And for instance, when Moses was on Mount Sinai and he asked for God's name, and in Hebrew he says Eye Asher Eye, and in Aramaic he says Ahia Ashara He, which is the same thing as Eye Asher Eye, but it's very difficult to translate that. Most people translate it as I am who I am, or I am that I am, but it has a much deeper meaning than that. What it really means is, if you're really going to give the interpretation of it, the meaning of it, it's I will be whatever tomorrow demands. In other words, your being is capable of becoming and meeting the need of whatever is arising. This is what it means in the ancient Hebrew and the Aramaic.
Oh, that's fascinating. That's fascinating. That's wonderful.
Yeah, it's not just when you say I am that I am, meaning I exist. That's not the point.
Right.
The point is my being is capable, because with Moses, he was going to be sent on a mission. And when he went on that mission, he didn't know what the elders of his tribes and of Israel would say to him. So what was being revealed to him is that whatever comes up, the need will be met. That's why Jesus says, your Father in heaven knows what you need before you ask him.
Oh, very good, very good.
You see the connection?
Yes.
So that's the idea that Moses was getting on Mount Sinai. And what it means for us today. Now, we're dealing with ancient teachings, ancient ways of speaking. But what it means for us in the modern world, when you interpret it, this is not exclusively Hebrew or Jewish or Christian. This is for everyone. As long as you're a human being, you have this in you. And this is what Jesus came to do, was to awaken what sleeps in us, to arouse the spiritual essence of our being, the spiritual essence of our spirit, to show that we are already one with God. And what we do in prayer is we open ourselves to it, where we begin to discover it and move in it and live in it and work in it.
Beautiful, beautiful. In the book, you say that another Aramaic term for God is Ithia, which means... Ithia. Okay. Could you talk about that bit, and what that exactly means? Because, you do speak about the consciousness of someone who's from the Near East and how that's different.
Yes. Well, the ithia means what it expresses. This is where we get. It's from Aramaic. Ithia, when it went into Greece, in the Greek language, it became theos
Yes.
and thea. That they use both.
Okay.
Theo, but it comes from the Aramaic ithia. But when Western Aramaic, it became ithio, and when it went into Greece, it became theo, which we use for the word God.
Mm-hmm.
But the meaning of it is that which exists of itself, from itself, through itself, by itself. In other words, it has its own energy and awareness, and it comes from itself, through itself, by itself. And this is the meaning of ithia, another term for God. See, these are all descriptions of God to show us that in the immaterial world,
Yes.
are these patterns that we don't see. Let me give you an example.
Okay.
You take like a seed, an apple seed.
Okay.
When you look at that apple seed, I don't care how you cut it up and open it up and put microscopes in it, you will not see a tree. You will not see roots. You will not see any of these things. Where does that come from?
Okay.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yes, sure.
In other words, the actual physical appearance of a seed, you can't see what it's going to be.
The essence, right. The essence of it.
Right. But the pattern.
Okay.
See the pattern. You have to plant it.
Mm-hmm.
And then the roots take in. Then the trunk comes up. Then the branches come out. Then the leaves come out. Then the blossoms come out. And then the apple is produced. But you don't see it in just the material. You have to plant it. It's the same thing with us. When we just look at us and our physical being, we don't really see the invisible pattern of our being, which we call God. When we come in prayer, we begin to touch that invisible pattern. We begin to make communion with that invisible pattern.
Right.
And each of us are distinct in that pattern.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that is what means, because everything in this world, and in the book of Genesis, it makes it very clear that everything has its own power.
Mm-hmm.
Every seed has its own power. Everything has its own power to keep it going.
Right.
And so do we, but we don't tap into it. We're so used to the material, that the materialism, the physical, that we don't take time out to commune, to connect with that within ourselves. And that's what really prayer is. See? And it's not telling God what to do.
It's connecting within.
Right.
And that, is the goal of Spirituality Rocks, because we teach practical spirituality. And that's all about connecting within your divine nature and connecting to God.
Exactly. And you are unique and distinct within yourself.
Fantastic. It's time for a commercial break. And when we return, what I'd like to do is translate the Lord's Prayer according to Aramaic. And I think when the viewers hear it, they're going to be a little surprised, because there's something in there that's incredibly significant, different from what we're typically taught as the Lord's Prayer. So stay tuned. We'll be back in just a little while after these commercial breaks with more Spirituality Rocks.
Hi, my name is Dr. Tom Dow. We have a multidiscipline practice in Melville and Ronkonkoma, New York, and we treat patients with many, many different conditions, from newborns through geriatric patients with numerous different techniques. There's a technique and a type of treatment for every class of patient. We have them all here. Here's my son Thomas, also a doctor of chiropractic, working on one of our patients' cervical spine. This patient has had chronic neck pain for many, many, many years, has been to a multitude of different practitioners with little or no response. And with our specialized techniques, she has improved tremendously and continues to improve on a daily basis. We have two practices, one in Melville and one in Ronkonkoma, New York. We are a multidiscipline chiropractic office. What that means is we have chiropractors, massage therapists, acupuncturists, psychologists, all working as a team and a network of outside professionals such as orthopedists and neurologists that we work hand in hand with to help determine what your injuries are and the best way to treat your injuries. I have the great pleasure of having my son in practice with me. We work hand in hand, father and son, to give our patients the best care possible, and a staff which is loving, caring, and you'll never have to wait at all in our office for service. Many times patients come into our office and they have what's called a soft tissue injury. Soft tissue injuries are like scars inside your body. If you've ever been cut on the outside of your body, you get a scar. The same thing happens inside of your body to your muscles and ligaments. So our job is to determine where those are, stretch the muscles, adjust the vertebra back into their correct position, and then refortify the normal structure with exercise. That's what we do best, and I hope someday you'll come see us at one of our two offices. Thank you.
Welcome back to Spirituality Rocks. I'm your host, Janine Burns, delighted to be bringing you today Dr. Rocco Errico, the author of Setting a Trap for God, the Aramaic Prayer of Jesus. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you.
And now, my next question, we're going to read the Lord's Prayer in just a moment, but the Lord's Prayer starts with Our Father. Now, you did address in the book that Our Father has nothing to do with gender. I know we live in a modern world where, we want to be all-inclusive. Would you please explain what Jesus meant when he said, Our Father?
Okay, first of all, in the ancient world, they didn't have this problem of male versus female and one superior and one, what we try to straighten out in our modern world.
Right.
When Jesus used this term, he's not being gender specific. When he used the term Our Father, this is a term of endearment. You see, they have their terms of endearment are different from ours. Even today in Arabic, in Hebrew, I'm talking about the Hebrew they speak today, and in Arabic as well as Aramaic, they still use terms of endearment. When we want to use a term of endearment, we say sweetheart,
Right.
honey,
Yes.
precious, darling, and
Right.
we're not gender specific with that.
Okay, got it.
We use it. So what Jesus was saying, see, when I say the prayer, I always say, our beloved who is everywhere. Mother, father, in Aramaic and in Hebrew and in Arabic is a term of endearment which means the beloved one.
Got it.
A father will call his son father. A mother will call her daughter father or mother, either
Okay.
way. And two
Okay.
friends will call each other father because it's a term of endearment.
Okay, got it. Now, I want to read from the book a little bit.
Okay?
And now, when Jesus' young disciples were with him one day by the Lake of Galilee, they asked him to teach them to pray. Jesus immediately began to instruct them in the way of prayer, and he told them, pray this way. And that phrase, this way, means to pray something like this. And then here you've translated from Aramaic, the language Jesus spoke, the Lord's Prayer, which goes like this. Our beloved, who is everywhere, let your name be set apart. Come your kingdom, which means counsel. Let your desire be, as in the universe, also on earth. Provide us our needful bread from day to day, and free us from our offenses, as also we have freed our offenders. And do not let us enter into temptation, but separate us from error. For belongs to you the kingdom, the power, and the song and praise from ages through ages, sealed in trust, truth, and faithfulness. And that's based upon Matthew 6, 9 through 13. Wow.
Yes, I translated it more to give the meaning of the Aramaic words. We're so used to the way the prayer has become liturgical today.
Yes, it has. It
And
has.
so it has lost its energy and its power. So what I did was to show the meanings of the word, like the word kingdom doesn't mean anything to us today. We don't live in a kingdom. We live in a democratic world.
Right.
We don't use the word kingdom. But in the ancient world, and when we think of a kingdom, we think of a realm. But it didn't mean that when Jesus said, let your kingdom come, or come your kingdom. What he was saying is, let your counsel come, you see. Not in the sense of a kingdom as we think of a kingdom.
Right.
And so this is why when I did that prayer and translated it with the different phrases in there, like, for instance, heaven, our beloved who is everywhere. The term heaven there meant everywhere, universal. So I tried to give when I retranslated it, I tried to open up the Aramaic depth of meaning when Jesus gave this prayer for us in the modern world, see.
Wonderful. And I want the viewers to know that they can check you out. They can go to Rocco A. Errico. It's across the screen on a banner. That's www.roccoaerrico.com to find out more about Dr. Rocco Errico's work, as well as this particular book. He has many books. He was even saying during our commercial break, he has books about the Gnostics and on and on. Now, I want you to know this is an easy-to-read book, and it really takes every word of the Lord's Prayer and defines it, and also defines the overall meaning. But what I want to talk about, which I think is a big difference, because I remember as a little girl, and I wanted to be a minister when I was, 5 years old, and back in the day, so to speak, women weren't allowed to be ministers. And I used to think about this Lord's Prayer. And we would say, and lead us not into temptation. And I would think, well, the Bible says God is love. If God is love, how could love lead us into temptation? And then I remember back in the late 70s, when I first saw your book, and you translated it to say, the Lord's Prayer to say, and do not let us enter in temptation. Light bulbs went off, and I said, wow, that makes so much more sense. Talk to us about that particular part of the Lord's Prayer, and do not let us enter into temptation.
Well, it simply means keep us out of trouble.
Keep us out of trouble. I'm down with that.
Keep us
Okay.
out of trouble. In other words, guide me away from the trouble, see.
Divine guidance, which you spoke about just a little while ago, and you said going within for prayer. Okay, good.
Right.
Good.
So that means the word there is talan. And today, modern scholars still have trouble with it, trying to translate it from Greek. And they say, do not lead us to the test. Do not, all this kind of stuff. It doesn't mean that. It simply means, and even Benjamin Franklin did not like that part of the Lord's Prayer. I have a history book right here on my shelf that where Benjamin Franklin changed the Lord's Prayer, and he did not know the Aramaic. But when he came to that phrase, when he felt it meant, he put, and keep us out of trouble.
Isn't that great? Oh, he's one of my heroes.
And he didn't know Aramaic.
Yeah.
That means, and do not let us enter into temptation. How can God, which is love and peace and joy, bring us into temptation? Doesn't make sense. God is light, understanding, harmony. How can it bring us into temptation? Can't do that.
Can't do that. And how about this part here? For belongs to you the kingdom, the power, and the song and praise. That's
right.
So different for you are. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory. And then you've changed it to, of course, belongs to you, meaning belongs to us. Please talk on that, about that. That's great.
Well, what he's really saying is when we acknowledge God in our midst, then we don't worry about competing, because what belongs to you will come to you.
Right.
And when you're competing with someone, you feel like you don't have what they have.
Right.
That's not true. So this is the meaning of it. When we give all the glory of the song and praise to God, which all of that belongs to God, which is in every one of us, then we don't have to worry about competing or being jealous or anything like that, because we all carry our own uniqueness.
That's beautiful. I want to jump a little bit of subject here. A lot of times people say, oh, it's the will of God, and people think it's the will of God for us to suffer. We talked earlier, God is not an anthropomorphic being up in the sky in the universe somewhere. We talk about the power of God within. How do you address that when people say, oh, God says we're suffering?
Well, this has been taught in Christianity. They miss it. They miss the point. They misunderstood Paul and his writings. First of all, Paul did not know his letters were going to be put in the Bible and called the Word of God. He didn't know that at all. And
wow.
He just wrote pastoral letters, and he's the one who talks about the sufferings of Christ that we shared. But it didn't mean the way people talk about it today. If I'm suffering, that and as if God put suffering on you to teach you a lesson. No, we don't put suffering on our children to teach them a lesson.
No, absolutely not.
And if we don't do it, how could God do such a thing? And God is not a person anyway.
Right, exactly.
And we talk about three persons in one, but God is not even one person. God is spirit. It has nothing to do with personhood.
Exactly.
We have personhood.
Exactly. One more idea I want to touch upon, and then we need to go. And
okay.
Give us this day, our daily bread is typically how it's said. And then you say, provide us our needful bread from day to day. Now, bread itself not only means food, but it also represents what?
It represents whatever we need. That's why it says our needful bread. Whatever is needed for that day, it is there for you.
So it means ideas, it means prosperity, it means
any kind of thing you have need of.
Isn't that wonderful?
Yes.
Gosh, I just love this book. I love you. I was so honored to have gotten to see you. You spoke, at the Divine Science Federation. It was in July. I was in Phoenix, Arizona. You were fantastic. You were the keynote presenter at the dinner, and boy, you were just spectacular.
Thank you.
Yes, and so people can go on to Amazon, or they can go on to www.Rocco and check you out. Is there some thought that you'd like to leave our viewers with on Spirituality Rocks?
Well, the thought is be confident, be trusting, and know that you are a part of God.
Wow. I bless you. I appreciate you. Thank you so much for joining us on Spirituality Rocks. People, this is Dr. Rocco A. Errico. His book is Setting a Trap for God, the Aramaic Prayer of Jesus. And we'll be right back with more of Spirituality Rocks.
My name is Dr. Robert Brevard. I'm here for Multi-Medicine in Westbury, New York. We're located at 1065 Old Country Road, Suite 214. Been here for about 15 years. The practice has medical doctors, physical therapists, chiropractors, acupuncturists. We also do pain management, and we have orthopedists on staff. Here at Advanced Multi-Medicine Rehabilitation, we've got physical therapists on staff who treat an array of conditions, from neck pain to back pain, shoulder pain. We treat carpal tunnel. We treat a lot of car accident patients, slip and falls. We treat patients with knee injuries, with ankle injuries. We have state-of-the-art equipment. We've been here for over 15 years. Vast array of diagnostic testing, from x-rays to EMGs. What is an EMG? It's a diagnostic test that allows a doctor to determine where the pinched nerve is. Cora is a physical therapist at Advanced Multi-Medicine and Rehabilitation. She's working on Stephanie, who was involved recently in an automobile accident. Stephanie has tight thoracic and cervical musculature, and Cora is doing some myofascial release work and some therapeutic stretching, doing it to help her with her pain. Vicky is also a patient here at Advanced Multi-Medicine and Rehabilitation. Vicky is now working her leg muscles, specifically her quadricep muscles, trying to strengthen them after an injury she sustained. If you find yourself in need of any type of physical therapy, please don't hesitate to call Advanced Multi-Medicine and Rehabilitation, located in Westbury, New York, in Suite 214. Phone number is 516-334-7000, or find us on our website at advancedmultimedicine.com.
I am Tom Mealy for the Harrison Law Group, and I have been telling you for years that getting involved in an automobile accident is no joke. This is what we do. We're not new at this game. If you've been involved in an accident of any kind and you go to a law firm that says you have no case, it's simple. It's because they can't do it and they don't get it. You need to call us directly at 1-800-INJURY-LAW.
This is Beth.
Hi.
Oh, congratulations. When are you due?
I'm not pregnant.
Oh, look at that. Excuse me.
You're totally thin.
You look very sexy.
For life's bleachable moments, all it takes is 3/4 of a cup. Are you planning an event and want to include entertainment, but you're not sure where to turn? Act1Entertainment.net has provided over 1,500 events with quality, affordable live entertainment at private parties, corporate affairs, festivals, bike rallies, and more. Act 1 will fit into your budget. They're friendly, reliable, and do all the legwork for you. They take all major credit cards. Log on to Act1Entertainment.net for a free, no-obligation price quote or call 631-758-3505 for a brochure. You'll be happy you did.
Welcome back to Spirituality Rocks. I'm your host, Janine Burns, and delighted to be with you for another fantastic episode. I want to speak to you very briefly about affirmative prayer. This is a terrific book. It's called This Thing Called You. It's by Dr. Ernest Holmes. You can check it out on Amazon. For many years, I've taught from this book, and many students. Why? Because this book really helps you to understand a new definition of God, of the magnificent energy, presence, and power that seeks to express in you, through you, and as you. I just opened up to page 76 randomly, and everything in the book that's in italics, my book has got scribbles all over it, from all my notes, is affirmative prayer. So I'd like to read this affirmative prayer. I invite you to allow it to resonate with you. It goes like this. The Spirit within me makes all things new. Every negative thought or condition is erased from my experience. I'm aware of my union with good. I am conscious of my oneness with all life. I expect more prosperity, more happiness, more harmony than ever before. I walk in the joy of ever-increasing good. And so it is, amen. So that is an example of affirmative prayer from the book This Thing Called You by Dr. Ernest Holmes. Check it out on Amazon. And now I have with me, I'm so excited because I get this person, Dr. Christopher Ian Chenoweth. He sends out readings, and I get them, and I find them to be so inspiring, and they get the pump primed when I have to give an inspirational talk, or just for my work as an interfaith chaplain. And I'd like to welcome to the show this gentleman who has this whole worldwide ministry on positive Christianity on the internet, and it's absolutely amazing. Welcome to Spirituality Rocks, Christopher Ian Chenoweth.
Thank you so much. I'd like to say something first.
Okay.
You just had on one of my best friends, although I haven't seen him in about 10 years, Rocco Errico. And I consider Rocco Errico one of the top Bible scholars alive today. You just can't get any better than him.
Yeah, you know, I didn't introduce him as that, and I guess that would have been a good idea. The fact that he just speaks Aramaic is amazing, so that he can really translate all those writings well. Now, your work, your mission, I love your mission, is to uplift humanity. You provide free prayer support, free daily inspirational emails, video support. You're on the internet all the time, and you do seminars at various spiritual communities around the United States. I love your work. Tell me more about what you do.
Well, when I first started this, I was praying about what to do next. I was the former senior minister at the Unity Village Chapel at World Headquarters of Unity School of Christianity. Then I left there and I started to speak in different cities every week. And that was an exciting time, but I wanted to do more. And I got the idea in prayer up in the mountains of Utah, the Wasatch Mountains, to start a computer ministry. Now, I'll tell you how unusual that is. I didn't own a computer. I didn't know how to turn on a computer. It was just the most foreign idea for anybody to receive, and I did what most people do in that situation. I argued with God. I said, God, there's no way that I could do something like this. I mean, I don't even know how to type. And finally, after urging came through in prayer, I decided, okay, I'll try it. And I put my toe in, and this was clear back in 1998 and 99, before most people had email and the internet, and it just took off. We're now going to well over 1 million people a day. And it's absolutely free of charge. That's why it's a success. We want to help people, and we don't want to help just the people in a closed circle. We want to help the Catholics and the Baptists, and we have no agenda. We don't want to pull anybody into our way of thinking. We want to make them a better Catholic or a better Baptist or better unity or whatever they are, divine science.
Fantastic. So you've been doing this for 30 years.
Well, since I've been doing this particular thing since 1999.
Oh, okay. Okay, great. Now, what I love that you do this is you also offer materials for ministers as well, like sermon materials and seed thoughts such as that. But I want to read a little bit to the people about what you do. You're really a ministry without walls. You're not connected to any church or religion, as you said. But first and foremost, it's all about prayer. All about prayer. And you even say that when you pray for people that something happens and that you prove the power of God through answered prayer. And I love that you say in here that God is bigger than your problem, and if prayer doesn't work, you're not working prayer.
That's right.
Tell us more about
when
that.
When a person can accept what is being said positively about them and take it inside of themselves and become the prayer from the top of their head to the bottom of their feet, then they will have their answer. Their answer will live in them. And to get something from God, God doesn't come to us with a divine crane and bring our good down and set it down in front of us. To have an answer to prayer, it has to come through us. And we either are the block or we're wide open and accepting and receiving, and then we can have answer to prayer and maybe even a miracle happen in our lives.
That's wonderful. And miracles do happen. There's no doubt about that. No doubt about that.
Yes, they do.
Good, good. And so when we talk about positive Christianity, you talk a lot about trusting God and trusting the source. And so how does that work? How can people, trust? We have this idea of a power outside of us that's doing something to us. How do we learn to trust God?
Well, we are positive Christianity, and a lot of Christianity or spirituality, or what they call spirituality in general, is really quite negative. I was in the store the other day in a grocery, and I picked up a book on prayer because we have prayers published on our website for people to use. And I opened it up, and it was so incredibly negative. It was like it described the problem through 3 paragraphs, and the last line it asked for a touch of God. Well, we have to trust God as Jesus did in the beginning, even before we have our answer. We have to convince ourselves. We don't have to convince a reluctant God. And once Jesus said to pray continuously, I agree. But that is to convince ourselves and to have that feeling inside of us that God is with us, that the presence of God is real, and that I can have an answer, I can have a miracle. And then it happens.
What about people? People will say, oh, it's God's will or it was meant to be. And that sometimes befuddles me because it could be something that could be considered not very positive. and they say, oh, it was meant to be. Talk about that phrase. I always question people when they say that. Well, what do you mean it was meant to be? Do you mean there's a power outside of you that's got a big book in its hand and a pen and it's doing bad things to you? What does that mean?
I believe that God's will is absolutely good for Dr. Burns all the time. And there are other things that happen in life, and then we wonder, why did it happen? But God's presence is always with us to make it better, to help us find our way through the maze, find our way from the problem to the solution, find our way from sickness to healing. That's God's will.
Very good. God's will is absolute good. Okay, in positive Christianity, I know teaches thoughts held in mind, produce after their kind. What does that mean?
Yes.
Tell us more about that, please.
Well, you are the thoughts that you hold all day long in your mind.
Okay.
You become your thoughts. When the mind is pivotal, it can turn in two directions. It can turn towards the things that are lower than you, animalistic things, or it can pivot toward God thought and divine mind. And when you allow your mind to be that open, receptive, wonderful expansion to have the good of God come through, then you have real, sometimes genius inspiration come to you, showing you the way, giving you guidance and helping you with exactly what you need help with.
Okay, so then God's will is good, and
yes.
and God is good, means good. How does faith fit into the equation?
Well, faith is something that is held in you and held in me. We all have faith, but what do we have faith in? We sometimes could have faith that when we apply for a job, we won't get it. We could have faith that we will get sicker. We will have faith that sometimes that things will turn out the worst instead of the best. And I tell you, with God, when you have faith in God, you have faith in the absolute best happening in and through you. There are people that are watching right now that are wondering how some situation is going to turn out in their life. Well, when they have faith in God, when they connect with God, the very best is going to happen. And what I often see in prayer is that it always happens better than even the person can imagine, because that's the way God is.
That's the way God is. I love that. Well, we're going to take a brief commercial break. I want the viewers to know that they can just go to www.positivechristianity.org and check out more of Christopher Ian Chenoweth. So stay tuned. We'll be back in just a minute or two with more of Spirituality Rocks.
professional motorcycle transport and towing, think Kickstart Fabrications Motorcycle Towing. Proudly serving all of Long Island, we feature expert handling and 24/7 service. So send a limo for your toy with Kickstart Fabrications Motorcycle Towing. For professional motorcycle...
Okay. Welcome back to Spirituality Rocks. I'm your host, Janine Burns, and I love practical spirituality, and I love that our Skype guest is from Texas, and he's with www.positivechristianity.org. They serve every religion, and they serve with prayer. It's on the banner of your bottom of the screen. Welcome back to Spirituality Rocks, Christopher Ian Chenoweth.
I'm honored to be here.
Well, thank you so much. May I call you Chris?
Oh, yes, please.
Awesome. I love this idea where we teach that God's good is omnipresent. A lot of people are thinking about prosperity. They're thinking about employment. And unfortunately, they're focusing on not having enough. And what you just said a moment ago is basically what you think about, you bring about. That power flows to the focus of attention. What can you say to the viewer who's struggling financially, who's not having a very optimistic outlook? What could you say to them?
Well, a lot of times when you focus on lack, it is something that is taking over your very countenance, and you actually repel your good. Okay. Emerson said, "What you are speaks so loud I can't even hear your words."
Right.
We often have people say to us that when they were going to a job interview, they kept saying over and over again to themselves, "I'm not good enough." And then they got there and they saw all the other people in the room, and they looked around and said, "These people are more qualified than me. I'll never get this job." And even though they had on their suit and their hair was done and they had their makeup on and they had a smile on their face, their soul was projecting out what they were thinking. And I know it's difficult, especially when you've been out of work or you're having lack or you need more prosperity in your life. But you have to retrain yourself and begin, even with a mustard seed of faith inside of you, to believe that with God, now that's the key, not just yourself, but with God, you will succeed. And there are better days ahead than behind you, that you're not your biography, that you are the future and your success, and you're going to form a partnership with God. And every day you won't go to your job. It will be you and God going to your job and allowing God to work through you. And you'll become a great success. That's what I do. I don't take any credit for this ministry. It's success. I'm just a bumbling human being that showed up, that God is working through, that God writes through, and it's amazing to me more than anybody else what is being done.
Yes, indeed. Well, the power of positive prayer is just phenomenal. And I've had that too. People call me for prayer and they'll say, "Oh, your prayer, you did great." And it's like, no. God in me, through me, and as me. And I love this idea. I love what you said about God being your partner. So when you have that awareness and that realization, you really open the floodgates for divine inspiration, for divine ideas. You're suddenly at the right place, at the right time, doing the right things, in the right circumstances.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and as I said before the break, it's always even better than you can conceive of in the moment you're praying. I hear from people that have had answered prayer every single day. It's my ultimate pay for doing this ministry, is hearing about answered prayer. And they always say, "You won't believe what happened. Out of the blue, this occurred, and it was so much better than I could ever have conceived of." Well, of course, that's the way God works.
And that's such an important point, that it was so much better than I could conceive of. So could you speak, we just have a couple of minutes left to the show, but what about this idea of expectancy? Now, I know it's kind of challenging, when you are in lack and limitation, you're not sure, what your next paycheck is going to cover with your bills, etc. What about this idea of expectancy? Please speak to us on that.
Well, that's a fascinating thing. There are a lot of churches that have statements like expect a miracle. I would change that to accept a miracle.
Accept
A miracle, because if you really talk to people, they are often expecting the worst at a subconscious level of mind.
Okay.
Because they're going through a hellish state right now, and they think that, gee, this is the way it will always be. But when you can accept something and realize that it's much more than you, that there is a divine touch of God that's happening, and God is coming through you and through your situation and through all of the challenges you're facing, healing it, straightening it out, and making it better for not only you, but all concerned in your family and your friends.
I love that. And one of the prayers that I like to pray is around the idea that I expand my receptivity and capacity to experience the kingdom of all good. And I accept it now. I accept it now.
Jesus said the kingdom of heaven is within you. Actually, that's a mistranslation. It is the kingdom of expansion is in you. Well, what in the world does that mean? The kingdom of expansion is in you. It means that Dr. Burns's mind is expanding. It's not closed in on itself, that it's expanding to the good of God, to new ideas, to divine ideas, the highest ideas, and for not just yourself, but to come through you so that you can benefit all of humanity.
Wonderful. The viewing audience, I want them to know that we're speaking to Chris Chenoweth. His name is on the banner across the screen. Do check out positivechristianity.org. And do you have a closing idea that you would like to leave the viewing audience with?
I say that spirituality is the depth of your bliss in the middle of your problem.
Wow. Spirituality is the depth of your bliss in the middle of your problem.
That's right.
That's deep.
And I invite everyone to go on our website and sign up for Positive Daily Inspiration. It's free, and as you know, it's always free. It'll be free a decade from now, and you'll get it every day.
And you have a cruise every year. I'm going on your cruise next year to New England. I'm looking forward to that. So thank you so much for joining us on Spirituality Rocks. Christopher Ian Chenoweth from Positive Christianity. We bless you. We appreciate you. Thank you so much.
My honor.
Bye-bye now. And so, please tell your friends to check out www.spiritualityrockstv.com. And if you want to see past episodes, you can go to ustream.tv. In the little search engine, write Spirituality Rocks. You will see we have had tons of fabulous speakers. Dr. Barbara King, and we've had Harry Morgan Moses, Dennis Merritt Jones, we've had Mr. 2020, we've had James Redfield, and the list goes on and on and on. Do check us out. Also, you can go to www.newthought.org, but please do like us on Facebook. We'll see you next week. The shows air live every Thursday evening, 6 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time at Madhouse TV Studios in Long Island, New York. I'm your host, Dr. Janine Burns, teaching you practical spirituality, signing out for this week's episode of Spirituality Rocks TV.